Mr. Hawkins, welcome to the programme. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
You introduced the Manukau City Council Control of Street Prostitution Bill to the House originally in November 2005, but that was ruled by the Attorney General as conflicting with the human rights, with the Bill of Rights. What's different about the new bill?
Well, the first bill, I think the problem really was with it trying to pass a law that just specialised in places in New Zealand, and rather than the whole of New Zealand. It got considerable support initially because the first reading, it got, I think, over 110 votes for a first reading, which meant that there were select committee hearings and people had a chance to have their say. But in the end, parliamentarians don't like voting for laws that only affect a certain part of the country.
So this one is going to be a more general...
No, this one gives bylaw making provisions for a council. Now, bylaws are treated a little differently because bylaws really, the purpose of them is to make differences locally.
Interestingly, in the last few weeks, we've run a report from Sweden, which is something that Gordon Copeland suggested back in 2006, which was that the buyers were prosecuted rather than the sellers in that situation. And Sweden's experience was that there was a substantial drop in prostitution and in trafficking as a result of introducing those rules. So we'll take a quick look at a bit of that report, and then perhaps we can chat a bit about that.
Good.
The Swedish government has evaluated its controversial 1999 law, which prohibits the purchase of sexual services. The report reveals the legislation has succeeded in its intended goals.
Well, first of all, we can see that we halve the street prostitution. There is no evidence for an arena change where street prostitution went somewhere else.
We say it has achieved the goals that we put up, but this does not mean we are there, because there is no more prostitution.
Like the rest of Europe, Sweden is tackling a rising problem in human trafficking for sexual purposes, another area where such legislation has acted as a deterrent.
We could see that from the very beginning, actually, that criminals did not choose Sweden as the first country to bring women to. And we knew this through telephone interception, when criminals discuss among themselves and where to bring the victims. They very often pointed out that Sweden was a very bad market for these activities.
In recent years, Sweden has called for more international cooperation in questions of trafficking to great effect. In 2009, both Norway and Iceland adopted similar legislation, and interest in the Swedish model has spread.
We take focus from the prostitutes to the buyers, and I think that's important, and it's interesting to see that more countries are going in the same direction.
The report proposes a number of new measures, including raising the maximum penalty for buyers from 6 to 12 months, in addition to improved coordination on a national level.
What we ask for is that there should be a centre in Sweden that will take the full responsibility to develop this further, so that this can be even more effective in the future.
So that was the situation in Sweden. Obviously it's been very effective, and the fact that a number of other European countries are taking it up would imply that it does seem to work. But when Gordon Copeland suggested that a few years back, he was pretty much howled down and told it was a bad idea.
Yeah, I think for the police it probably will be a useful tool in them being able to catch people. There are two main areas where street prostitution is a real problem. That's Papakura and Manurewa. What annoys people more than who's doing it is what they do with condoms left lying around in the shopping centre, vomit from people who have had too much liquor. So it's a huge social problem, And in the end, I think you cannot just attack one part. You can't just say it's the fault of women out on the streets. They would not operate if they couldn't find customers. When you have prostitution impacting on communities, on businesses, and people having to clean up after them, people feel disgusted with that, and rightly so. So in the end, I think police need to take more responsibility. They got to start targeting these people. We had individuals trying to get number plates, and they were going to write to the owner of the number plate, because quite often it may have been a work car or things like that. So there's many different ways to attack it. What Manukau wants to do is have a bylaw so they cannot operate in these areas. Fairly simple, and sometimes simple ideas are the good ideas.
What sort of support have you got for the bill?
I think it should get through to the Select Committee. One of the problems, however, is Manukau City Council itself stops being Manukau City on the 1st of November, and so there'll be arguments around whether the bill will just carry over to Auckland and things like that. Auckland has a bit of a problem, and Happy Road, I know John Banks is against that, and so maybe Auckland may be quite willing to pick it up.
You've gone for a few moral issues in the past. I know in 2006 you were interested in taking another look at the abortion laws. What's driving you to do that?
I want to see the community stronger. One of the problems we have a lot of unmarried mothers, very young. We have a huge alcohol problem where on practically every street corner there's an off licence, and these things really impact on the rest of the citizens. We've had people being murdered in liquor store. We've had shopkeepers threatened. So when you have a combination of those social issues, I suppose my role as an MP is to draw them to people's attention.
Because interestingly, you're now looking at getting involved back in local politics after years of being an MP, and before that you were a mayor in South Auckland. What's made you decide to go back into local politics?
Well, I think there's big changes in Auckland, and I think if they don't have strong voices coming up, places like Manurewa, Papakura, Manurewa could really suffer and be lost in the crowd. Many people say Otahu has been forgotten by Auckland City because it's on the outstream. I don't want that to happen.
Well, it was good to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.